On October 30th, 1961, the world held its breath. High above the desolate expanse of Novaya Zemlya, a remote Arctic island, a force of unimaginable power was about to be unleashed. This was the Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear weapon ever detonated. Weighing in at a staggering 27 tons and over 26 feet long, it dwarfed any other nuclear weapon ever conceived. At 11:32 a.m. Moscow time, the Tsar Bomba detonated. A blinding flash of light, brighter than 1,000 suns, illuminated the Arctic sky, momentarily turning night into day. A gigantic fireball, several kilometers wide, erupted, rising rapidly into the atmosphere like a monstrous incandescent balloon. This was a force of nature born in a laboratory, a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for both innovation and destruction. To understand the Tsar Bomba, one must first delve into the tumultuous waters of the Cold War. This was an era defined by an ideological struggle between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Both nations, armed with nuclear weapons, engaged in a high-stakes game of brinkmanship. The seeds of the Cold War were sown in the aftermath of World War II. The United States, with its capitalist democracy, and the Soviet Union, a communist state under the iron grip of Joseph Stalin, emerged as the two dominant forces in the world. The development and use of atomic bombs by the United States against Japan in 1945 cast a long shadow over the burgeoning Cold War. The Soviet Union, not to be outdone, developed its own atomic bomb in 1949, effectively ending the American monopoly on nuclear weapons. The 1950s witnessed a frantic arms race between the two superpowers. The world watched, holding its breath, as the doomsday clock, a symbol of global nuclear threat, edged closer to midnight. The Tsar Bomba was born in this cauldron of Cold War paranoia and one-upmanship. It was a weapon conceived not for strategic military purposes, but as a brute force demonstration of Soviet might. Its creation was personally ordered by Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, a flamboyant and often unpredictable leader. The task of designing and building this monstrous weapon fell upon a team of Soviet physicists and engineers, led by the brilliant but conflicted Andrei Sakharov. Sakharov, often referred to as the father of the Soviet hydrogen bomb, was a complex figure grappling with the moral implications of his work. The development of the Tsar Bomba was a remarkable feat of engineering, completed in just 15 weeks. It was a thermonuclear weapon, utilizing the principles of nuclear fusion to unleash energy on a scale far greater than that of fission bombs. The Tsar Bomba was initially designed to have a yield of 100 megatons, but this was later reduced to 50 megatons to limit the amount of radioactive fallout. A specially modified Tu-95V bomber, stripped of its bomb bay doors and fuel tanks to accommodate the massive weapon, was chosen for the task. The Tsar Bomba was detonated at an altitude of 4 kilometers above Novaya Zemlya. The explosion was nothing short of cataclysmic. A blinding white flash, visible from 1,000 kilometers away, was the first indication of the awesome power unleashed. A gigantic fireball, its flames reaching out towards the heavens, rapidly expanded, dwarfing even the largest mountains. The mushroom cloud surged upwards, reaching an altitude of 64 kilometers, penetrating the stratosphere and reaching the lower limits of space. The cap of the mushroom cloud spread outwards, spanning a diameter of nearly 100 kilometers, casting an ominous shadow over the Arctic landscape. The shockwave generated by the explosion circled the globe 3 times. Windows were shattered hundreds of kilometers away, and the seismic shock was equivalent to an earthquake measuring 5.5 on the Richter scale. The bomber crew, despite being hundreds of kilometers from ground zero, barely escaped the blast. Andrei Sakharov, the brilliant physicist who had played such a pivotal role in the creation of the Tsar Bomba, watched the detonation with a mixture of awe and horror. The sheer power of the blast, the realization of what he had helped unleash, had a profound effect on him. He later wrote of his experience, "I felt the visceral thrill of what I and my colleagues had created, but it was immediately followed by a sickening feeling of dread." Sakharov's initial pride in his work slowly gave way to a deep sense of unease. He began to speak out against further development and testing of nuclear weapons, arguing that such weapons served no strategic purpose and posed an existential threat to humanity. The Tsar Bomba cast a long shadow over the world. It was a stark reminder of the destructive power of nuclear weapons, a power that could potentially end civilization as we knew it. The detonation sent shockwaves through the international community, prompting calls for a halt to the nuclear arms race. Public opinion, horrified by the prospect of such devastating weapons, turned against further nuclear testing. The Tsar Bomba, despite its terrifying power, ironically played a role in promoting nuclear disarmament. In 1963, just 2 years after the Tsar Bomba test, the two superpowers signed the Limited Test Ban Treaty, which prohibited nuclear weapon tests in the atmosphere, underwater, and outer space. It was a small but significant step towards a safer world. Even today in the year 2025, the specter of nuclear war continues to haunt us. The world watches with concern as new nuclear powers emerge and existing nuclear states modernize their arsenals. The lessons learned from the Tsar Bomba, the terrifying realization of the destructive power we possess, should not be forgotten. The importance of dialogue, of diplomacy, of finding peaceful solutions to international conflicts cannot be overstated. The future of our planet, the survival of our species, may very well depend on our ability to learn from the mistakes of the past and forge a path towards a world free from the threat of nuclear war.